Hey everyone, it's Zach here. I know it's been a while. I'm excited to bring to you a new idea that I had recently regarding labeling workflows, especially when we're doing event-driven automation. This idea came to me from my past life when I used to build a lot of DevOps pipelines, and part of that was supporting and helping my customers to troubleshoot. One thing my team did to make that easier for us was we always tried to label or tag the pipeline runs with metadata that was relevant to that particular request, which enables us to more easily go and search and find past runs to do investigation. The way that's done in AAP is a little bit different because we have the concept called labels, and they're not necessarily one-to-one functionality that you may experience with tags and other platforms. So you have to be a little bit creative, but you can get the same functionality as far as being able to look up past runs. And so that's what I'm going to walk through today, is how I've implemented that using AAP native labels and tying those into EDA. So the first thing we'll do is hop over into ServiceNow really quick, because this is how I'm going to drive my event-driven Ansible workflow. So I've got this basic catalog item that enables me to order a VM. I've already pre-populated it with a couple of fields, and I'm going to click order now. That's pointing to a rulebook activation, which has an event stream tied to it, which exposes a webhook for ServiceNow to send events. And that rulebook activation is running this rulebook here on the left. And the way that this solution works is I'm actually going to effectively intercept events that don't have proper labels yet. And I do that by this first rule, because in rulebooks they're executed and applied sequentially. So I know that if I have this at the top, I can apply it to every event, and if I need to create the label, I can. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for a particular property called labeled event, and if it's not defined, and for demo purposes, I'm also honing in on a particular catalog item, so just the one I ordered, but this could definitely be more generic. And then the last condition is just making sure that it's only the first modification of that particular item, so that I'm not duplicate firing for the same RATM. So once we get in there, so let's say it hasn't been labeled yet, we're going to run this job template called create label. And there's a key here called post events true, which is really important. So that tells this job template that once it's done, kind of in the magic behind the scenes of AAP, it knows to then push an event back to this particular rulebook activation. The job args, the most interesting one here is going to be the label. So that's the label that I'm creating. And the reason why we have to do the intercepting is in AAP, this label has to exist before you can apply it to a workflow. So that's why we're doing this kind of intercepting activity, creating it, and then we're going to apply it in the next step. So this action here is related to this playbook on the right. And this playbook, you can see, super simple, 2 tasks. The first task is using the certified Ansible controller collection to create the label in a particular org. And the second task is very important. So it's using set stats, and the data that it sets is what's going to be posted back to the event stream and processed by this rulebook. So you'll see that I'm giving it this labeled event, and all I'm doing is I'm taking the original EDA event payload and I'm combining it with my label. So if you take a look at the set stats and then we go back over to the rulebook, you'll see that labeled event is defined now, so it's not going to try to create the label again. And it's going to fall through, and if I scroll down, I happen to know it's going to fall through to this catalog item because this is the one that I'm focused on for the demos. And it's got the catalog items passing all the extra vars it needs, so this is the VM provisioning, so there's some information there. But it's also setting labels. So this labels key tells the platform and passes that extra labels list to prompt on launch. If I hadn't created the label before, this would fail because AAP expects the label to exist already. So let's take a look at how this actually works in practice. It happened pretty fast, so it's already going to be done. But if we go over to our rulebook activations, we'll see in the ServiceNow requested items that we've had a few events fire already. It's showing the fire count of 5. It was at 3 before I started this. So the first one was for the create label, and the second one being for actually running the downstream action. And if we go into our jobs, you'll see the downstream workflow is still running. But if we come down here, you'll see the AAP create label fired. And if we actually look at the deploy and configure workflow, if I scroll to the right, we'll see that it's labeled with the RATM. So this for me is kind of the power and value of implementing this solution is, let's say you're collaborating with a bunch of folks, you have a lot of events coming in from ServiceNow that are triggering downstream automation. It's that moment when, let's say something in the process breaks and you need to go and investigate. To be able to find this particular job may not be super easy, but by labeling with the RATM, if I'm helping someone and I know the original request, I can come in here and change my search context to labels, and I can actually search for the particular label, and then I can hone in on it. Right? So this makes it a lot easier for me to then investigate, right? This is obviously still running, but if you can think about an event-driven world where maybe you're looking at this after the fact, you're seeing all these nodes as done and potentially one of them failed, or maybe the process worked, but unexpected behavior happens, so you need to figure out why. You can then go through and inspect, what actually happened, what were the variables, what were the job logs, and determine what the issue really is. And ultimately, just to tie everything back together, I'm going to come back to ServiceNow. I'm going to refresh my list of RATMs, and you'll see that this is the RATM that we requested at the beginning, which is tied to that label. So I hope you found that useful, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I find this a super valuable add, especially when dealing with a large volume of event-driven automation. So thanks for listening.